I never lose, either I win or I learn. Those are my only options, to whomever it may concern. About to be a hot topic, play with fire, you get burned. Ain't nobody give me nothing, whatever I got, better I earn. I never lose, but I learn. I either win or I
Thank you for
learn.
listening to the
Those are my
Strong
only
AF
options.
podcast.
This episode is brought to you by our Weight Loss Transformation Masterclass. After spending over 30 years of my life being obese and dealing with chronic constipation issues, I decided to get my certification in fitness, nutrition, and wellness to empower myself to lose over 70 pounds and keep it off.
Watching my brother and dad have a heart attack within weeks of each other, I knew I had to make a change, but I wasn't sure what to do. After researching and studying to get my certification in fitness, nutrition, and weight loss management, I was able to use this knowledge I gained to lose over 80 pounds and keep it off.
Now we're passionate about helping others to avoid the same mistakes that we made and changing the world through holistic health and wellness. So our approach is focused on mindset because overall health, including our mental health, means everything to us.
Imagine waking up with more energy than you imagined possible, no longer worrying about digestive issues and bloating.
We're here to show you how to ditch the fad diets and make small changes in your lifestyle, which will make a massive impact on your quality of life.
These are changes that you will be able to pass on for generations to come. Go to veganstrongandfit.com/masterclass today to sign up for your free masterclass and get started on a happier, healthier journey.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Strong AF podcast. I'm Ashley.
I'm Yuri.
And today we have on two amazing guests. We have on Jennifer and Stephanie PageWise, and we are so excited because this is our first married couple that we're interviewing as a married couple. So they are quantum relationship coaches, and they help the LGBTQIA plus allies to overcome challenges that keep them from having love and bliss in their lives, which I think is extremely beautiful. So welcome. How are you ladies doing tonight?
We are doing fantastic, and we're super glad to be here and really honored to be your first married couple.
Yes.
Yeah. It's exciting.
Yes, most definitely. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. How did y'all meet? How did you come to be, right?
Okay. Well, we met 12 years ago. We have one son who is now 16.
Wow.
He's Jennifer's bio son, and I'm the stepmother, which is actually really fun. He upgraded me from other mom. No, he called me a second mom at first, and then I got upgraded to stepmom once we got married. So that was really cool.
Nice.
He certainly is the center of our universe, even though he is 16 and is full of all those 16-year-old challenges.
Yes.
We met actually on a dating site, but we had actually met in person, though we didn't know it.
Wow.
The week before. And we'd wanted to catch each other in a meeting, and because of situations had gotten pulled away from each other and didn't get to. And then Jen found me on match.com.
Nice.
Wow.
And then we figured out that we had been at the same meeting, and I'm like, oh, now we really have to.
have to meet.
Now you
Without
do,
doubt.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been, as all lives, it's had its twists and turns. And one of the twists was that we actually broke up for 2.5 years.
Wow.
We let those things that get in between couples get the best of us, and we broke up. And then we started our own spiritual journeys. We kind of deepened our spiritual life and found our way back together. I'm talking a lot. Feel free to jump in at any point, Jennifer.
Not a problem. I don't want to interrupt while you're talking. But no, I would have to agree with Stephanie. We all, when we start relationships, there's that, infatuation and just this amazing chemistry that usually happens. But then at times, we all bring our baggage that we grew up with and had in other relationships. And sometimes we can't overcome that baggage and things happen. And that's what happened between us. And we did separate. and had no intentions of getting back together, but both individually, because we had our son, we're still trying to co-parent. So that meant that we still had to see each other because that was what was best for him. But what we found out was that even though we weren't necessarily working on our relationship, we were working on ourselves individually and happened to be on the same path, not even knowing it. So again, our paths just meant to cross and continue to cross. And when we realized we were on the same path again, it was like, okay, what's going on here? This is a God thing now. This is above us. There was something above us that was pulling us back together. And we ended up getting back together, and our first wedding anniversary will be in April.
Wow. Wonderful. Coming up very soon.
It is.
Yes.
That's great, because y'all's is in April, and then our 10th anniversary will be the next month in June. So.
Oh,
very nice.
Hey, very cool.
Very nice. And we've been together for 12 years, but as I said, only married for almost a year. In fact, the date of our wedding anniversary is the 12th anniversary of our very first date.
Wow.
We got married on the 11th anniversary of our first date.
That's amazing.
So it was right in the middle of COVID. There were 11 people there, I think at the most, including us, the three of us, and our minister and the photographer. So we had them all interspaced around the sanctuary of the church that we go to. And so very few people were able to come and join us, but we had to get married that day because it was our anniversary of our first date.
Yeah, that's so cool. So you know what we did for our anniversary, or like our dating anniversary? We had our third kid.
Oh, congratulations. Congratulations.
You'll never forget that one, will you?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, he snuck right in there before the New Year. So yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Very good.
Very nice.
So wonderful. So how then did you get into coaching others with their relationships?
Well, my background is as a clinical social worker. I've actually had my private practice here in Northwest Ohio for a few years, and I was feeling very constricted by the mental health model, and had started to look towards coaching because I felt that I could really serve more people and serve people on a deeper level through coaching. And so I started looking for coaches to coach me how to transform my practice. And I found someone who sparked a fire in me. And I came home after talking with this person and said to Jennifer, we have to do this together. And it was another one of those kind of God moments where there's just this internal bubbling up of knowing. And I came home and I was very excited. And I said, you're not going to believe this. I've never been so on fire about something, and we have to do this together. And, I'm saying it in almost like this kind of dull voice, but I was like, oh my God, this is really cool. And I know what we can do. And so we decided to start it together, and it's just evolved into being very specifically about relationships. And so that was where I came from. And Jennifer has a long history of working in the social services. Her whole career also has been in helping people and helping them find their best selves. And so we both have sort of this background of helping. And then, we looked at each other on that day and it's like, of course we're going to do this. And the other thing is that we've been teaching a spiritual course for the last 4 years.
Wow.
We've been teaching together for a while. So it was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's been a real treat to work so closely with her. And it's actually up-leveled our relationship too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. So I worried a little bit about it in the beginning, starting a business with my husband, because it's like, okay, where's that separation, right? From business partner to spouse. And how do we separate that? And what if we have a disagreement, like that's going to carry over? But it's actually brought us closer together. We're able to communicate better now, which again, there's like a long history there. And we actually have a whole other podcast episode about our marriage, because we've gone through a lot of struggles as well. And
Mm-hmm.
we've gone through counseling, which relates back to a lot of what you said, because we went to marriage counseling for us, right? But he ended up counseling basically our needs separately. And we were
Mm-hmm.
able to grow as individuals and then understand and be able to be better together. So I completely hear what you're saying on that. And it is a struggle, but it really has been an amazing experience to be able to do this together.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest things is like I might get a little frustrated. We had a big project that we were working on over the weekend, and this was a perfect example. We were really kind of a little bit stressed out about it
Mhm.
because and it wasn't going very easily at a few moments. And so at one point Jennifer was like, I don't think we can do this. And the condition self was coming up, and so part of me was like wanting to step back and hide and be
Yeah.
like, okay, well, we're just not going to do it then and throw it away. But there was another part of me that knew that this thing that we were working on could turn a whole lot of pieces in our business
Mm-hmm.
and to help us be able to truly serve
Mm-hmm.
folks in a better way. And so I took the dogs out, I took a moment, I got some air, and I came back and I said, this feels like it's really stressing you out. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you're feeling? Not something I would have done 6 years ago.
Right.
I would have just thrown it out and we would have been done. And so it's given me the courage to instead of, and we both have this tendency to clam up and hide and to say, hey, tell me what's happening. And then she could tell me that. And then a couple of hours later, I was in the same place that she had been in and I got it back. She's
Yeah.
like, no, we got through it a few hours ago. We're going to get through it again. And so we actually ended up coaching each other through those dark moments. And it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And we were able to then say, okay, you know what? Let's get through this much of it.
Right.
And then let's call quits and get back to it tomorrow when we have had a good night's sleep and we're fresh and ready to go again.
Yeah.
And then we jumped into it on Sunday and we got it finished. Instead of pushing ourselves to the point where, it's no return because you can't think anymore.
Yes. Yeah, because then not only are you frustrated at the project you're working at, but then you get frustrated at each other too.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and with ourselves.
Yes.
And that's the great thing about what we do is, people are like, well, I don't know if this program's for me because someone will say I'm single, or someone will say, well, I'm interested, but my partner's not interested, or can I do this with my partner? And I say yes to all three, because the thing is that first and foremost, your relationship with yourself is most important.
Yes.
So we teach people about self-love and how to care about themselves. That's the first thing that's most important. And secondly, if their partner wants to come and do this with them, great, but we're going to work with them individually too, because each person needs their own individual space too.
Yes.
So we do both. We work with people preparing them for the best love of their life and help them figure out maybe the mistakes they've made in the past so they don't make them again, and help them learn how to communicate, set boundaries, and all those things if they are in a relationship, and also work with them individually.
That's amazing. I'm just sitting here thinking back to like when we were in counseling, and I'm like, yes, that all of that, yes, is what helped us to get through, because we got to the point where it would be stupid things that we would have an argument about. And I'm like, I'm tired of this. Like, we're fighting over nothing. We need to have someone talk to us because obviously our communication level is not there.
Right. And then the other piece that, is really important about what we do is, because we also work with the LGBTQ community, there's a whole nother layer of problems.
Yes.
That we have to deal with. You guys, I'm sure in certain ways, there are certain areas that you might have to be more careful about your relationship, because I see that you guys have an interracial relationship. So that's not always accepted everywhere.
Correct.
Well, think about that on steroids.
Yep.
When you're living, when you love differently, when you love a woman, or if you're a man who loves another man,
yes.
There are people out there that just don't accept that and never will. And how do we deal with that? And what baggage do we bring with us to a relationship when maybe it's our family, our friends, our coworkers, or even ourselves, because we were raised in a belief of homophobia.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden we're realizing, oh my God, I was taught to be homophobic. And now I realized, whoa, I might be gay.
Yeah.
There's like this internalized homophobia that
Mhm.
almost everybody in our Judeo-Christian society was raised in.
Yes.
Whether, we have a son who was raised by two women. He still comes up with these statements that are homophobic. I'm like, where did you hear that? But he lives in a
Right.
homophobic society.
Mm-hmm.
He's
So
not hearing it under our roof, but he hears
Right.
it from his buddies
Mm-hmm.
and
commercials,
commercials
Yes.
and movies and everything else.
Yes, exactly. Oh yeah, we so we're in North Carolina. So we're in the Bible Belt region
Mhm.
where that is a big deal. And many times it's looked at as like the ultimate sin, right?
Right.
Which is crazy to me. And we have several friends who are a part of the community, and it's so sad and heartbreaking to see the way that people view them just for being themselves and loving who they want to love.
I
Not
have
even
friends
that.
that
It's just,
now go ahead, Yuri.
I said, not even that. It's just strange that they have those thoughts in their head, and I don't know, just have the nerve to call themselves Christians. That's how you view people, where you put one sin above the other, and it's just mind blowing.
It is mind blowing.
It is mind blowing. I had friends that now live back in Ohio, and they had to leave North Carolina because they had to live under the roof being cousins
Oh my gosh.
because they were afraid their house was going to get burnt down
Mm.
That's awful.
if they said that they were partners. So they finally just sold their house and moved to Ohio, which was where they both were originally from.
Mhm.
So they have family there, but they had settled in North Carolina because one of them had a job down there. And so that's where her career took her.
Yeah.
She gave up her career and they moved back to Ohio because they were scared.
No one should have to live in fear for that. No one.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
And yes, we get judgment. I mean, we can go out in public and so many times, even with the kids, we have 3 boys and we've still been asked if we've got separate checks or together. That
yeah.
irritates me so
We get asked that almost
much.
90% of the time when we go to a restaurant. 90%.
Ah,
People are so thoughtless. They
Mhm.
don't think, and they're afraid.
yes.
They don't want to make assumptions, but they're making assumptions by
Yes,
not making
exactly.
assumptions.
hmm
Come on, be brave.
Right.
Come on. We got to change this planet.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's really what we're all about. Our mission is to bring more love to the planet, one relationship at a time.
That's beautiful.
Love that.
Yeah. So, that's really what we're all about. And we focus on the LGBT community. Obviously, we're part of it.
hmm
And, what better place to teach than a place where you are?
Exactly.
And, there's no other relationship coaching program out there that has been created for and by someone in the community.
Yes. That's amazing.
You're just changing pronouns. They're taking John Gottman's work and they're changing the pronouns, but it doesn't always fit.
It doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit because roles are different,
Mhm.
right? I mean, who's to say who's got the husband's role in our relationship?
Right.
There is none.
There is none.
So we got to figure it all out from scratch.
You can't just take a traditional husband-wife relationship program and just change a pronoun
hmm
because it doesn't fit.
The model doesn't work.
Right.
So that's why we're like, this is what we have to be doing. And on the same token, we've had struggles
Mhm.
and we've overcome them. So we can teach people how to do that.
Yes.
That's the other thing is that some people who are coaching,
Mhm.
and this goes across the board for all different kinds of coaches, they think that they don't make mistakes anymore, or that, or people look at them saying, well, I'll never be able to be like that
Mhm.
because they haven't had any struggles.
Right.
No.
Or they're so far beyond them
Mhm.
that they don't even talk about them anymore.
Yes.
That's not us. We know that we have struggles, within the every month that we go through. Stuff comes up, we get triggered, we have to work through it.
And we talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
We
So,
talk to our folks about it, of what we're doing and how we're dealing with these issues of boundaries, of communication, of self-love, our spirituality, all of those things. We talk about how it affects our life, raising a child, raising a son, two women, raising a son. I mean, all of these things that we deal with. And then we also bring in the stuff that our friends and the folks that we work with, you know, what they're going through. We wrap it all in there and say, hey, you know, these are all the different things that could be happening, and here are some ways to deal with that.
That's amazing. And that's why, you know, I love working with someone who actually has gone through the experience and understands, because and it's the same way in our business, right? So with nutrition and fitness, people who are, you know, that model physique athlete who's never had to worry about what they eat or anything like this, and yet they're coaching you on how to lose weight when they've never had to face those struggles themselves. Whereas we've gone through the work, we've lost over 150 pounds, and we can relate to our clients in that way. We understand the struggles, we understand the temptations, and we can help them better.
Like they say, they always say in life, the best teacher is experience. And once you've experienced these things, then it's easier for them to understand it and to accept the information that you're giving them, because they're like, they definitely know what they're talking about. I've seen their story. I know what they've been through. So there is no doubt in my mind that we are capable of achieving those same goals or exceeding these expectations.
Right. You're not just reading it from a book, because any of us can do that.
Yes.
Right. We can all flip open a page of a book and start reading. But that isn't the same as having someone to guide you and having someone who said, you know, I've been there. And if I can do this, we can help you. You can do it too.
Most definitely. Now, you know, one of the biggest things, right, with our clients, everyone thinks it's, you know, just the nutrition and the fitness, but it's not. The biggest part of coaching in any type of business is the mindset, right? Because that's the hardest part to overcome. And when you're facing situations where you're unsure of who you are, or you're afraid to be who you are, things like that, they cause stress, anxiety, depression, which leads to bad nutritional habits and not getting your fitness in. So what are some tips that you have for our listeners who are struggling to really be who they want to be, or struggling in their relationships right now, especially during COVID, right? When many of us are still locked down, or many of us are working from home, and that's uncommon. Like, what are some tips that you have for our listeners to deal with those struggles so that they don't have to worry about that anxiety?
The very first thing, which is always where we start, is to find the ways that you do love yourself. You know, what are the things about you that you do love about yourself? You know, do you love your smile? Do you love your sense of humor? Do you love how you interact with your child, with your spouse, with your mom? What are the things in your life that you're proud of? And lean into that feeling. You know, it's always about the feeling, isn't it? It's whether you feel like eating the right thing or you don't feel like eating the right thing. Well, if you are feeling yucky, your choices are probably going to suck. So if you can get into a feeling state where you're feeling a little bit better about who you are, your next decision might be a little bit better.
Yes.
So it's the beginning of loving yourself, and it's planting the seeds of love for yourself. And you look back. You know, they say in mental health that depression is a disease of the past, and anxiety is a disease of the future. But you can actually make that work for you. I bet you all of us can think of 3 things in our life that we're especially proud of and that we especially like about our life. Those are your seedlings. And so have a moment where you think about those things and think about how it felt. You know, like mine, I loved being drum major of my high school band. When I lean into that feeling, I get happy. It's like, okay, from that happy place, what's my next step? What's my next thing that I want to do? And then guess what? Now I've just connected two happy things because I'm doing something else that makes me happy and proud of myself. So if it's eating, you know, if it's making a better food choice or making the exercise choice, maybe it was that I wanted to skip the gym today or skip my whatever my workout is. If I'm feeling like, oh, I could conquer being a drum major because there were moments when I was really afraid in that too, and I loved it, then I can do this too.
Yes.
So you're actually pairing those, and it's a great trick, and it kind of gets you in alignment with authentic self. And that's it. That's one of the things that we teach about a lot, the authentic self and the conditioned self. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. The conditioned self is the conditions that have been put on you by society. So the things that you're taught by your family, by the school, by society, by the government, anything in around you, you know, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're trying to do anything bad. You know, our conditioned self is to keep us safe, you know, but the other piece of us is our authentic self, and that is our connection with our higher self, with all that there is, whether that be for you, the universe, Mother Earth, Spirit, God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, whatever you might call it, but something outside of you. And that connection, which is your true conditioned, unconditioned self,
Right.
where it is true love. It is just your loving, joyous, happy nature. And if you can stay and figure out how to stay connected with that, when those conditioned parts of you come in and you can reconnect with that authentic piece of you, then it helps you to be able to love yourself more.
Yes.
That information y'all just shared is just gold. It's just y'all just dropped so many gems for our listeners. I'm just sitting here picturing everything, like when you were going through your memories and piecing them together. I was in my mind envisioning certain things and putting two and two together, and inside I was just sitting here. I could feel my cheeks starting to spread out with a grin coming on my face, and just hearing the way y'all explain everything with the conditioning and everything, it's very useful. Definitely.
Good. I'm glad that you felt that, because that tells me that your listeners will as well.
Definitely.
So that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's the first tip, is love. The second tip is communicate. Okay. Own your stuff. So if you've made a mistake, own it. Say, I'm sorry. Own it.
If you're
That's
just
a big
having a
step.
feeling,
That's a big
Yes.
step.
it is.
Own it.
We preach
Own it.
that to our kids all the time.
Yeah, own it. And the most important thing in communication, well, there's many things, but one of the most important things is using I statements. So don't accuse. Say, when this happens, I feel. When this occurs, I feel. Not you did this.
Yeah.
No, when this situation happened, it made me feel. So you're owning it. You're owning your feeling. So you're not putting the other person on the defense, because they're immediately going to put their walls up if you start pointing fingers. So you got to use I statements.
Yeah.
We were very guilty of that
When you
before.
communicate.
Yeah, we were most definitely guilty of that.
Many
So-
people are. You don't even realize you're
all-
doing it.
Yes, all the time. And we would definitely get defensive. But since we've changed the way that we communicate with each other, we're actually able to have really difficult conversations without the frustration and the arguments and everything that used to go along with it.
Because
Right.
like you said, with the feeling, that to me, that's like a key word right there. Because to me, what she tries to say may come off as just pointing the finger at me, just picking on me. But I have to understand this is what she's feeling. This is what I may have done or what I've said to way it made her feel a certain way. So you just have to sit there and listen to it. And there's nothing you could do. There's no blame. There's no other thing but to basically, like you said, just take ownership of what you have done or said to cause those feelings to be hurt.
And you know what? I'm going to add a piece to that too, Yuri, that she has to also own
Yes.
that it's her trigger
Mm-hmm.
that created her feelings. So you might have done something. And I'm share a little story about when Jennifer and I got back together. We had 6 years together where things had gone quite awry. And then we spent a couple years apart and we didn't like each other very much during those 2 years. And then we get back together and we started very slowly. We had a courtship. You know, when she asked, she always held the belief that we could make it. I did not. I was completely against it. She held out hope. And one day she asked me one more time if there was any hope. And I said, let me think about it. And I went and I thought about it. And I came back and I said, I'm willing to date. So we started dating again. And it was, slower than we had gone the first time. And as we were going, I found myself being triggered. She would say something
Mm-hmm.
that would remind me of the bad days. And I got the idea one day that I needed to just own the trigger
Mm-hmm.
every time. And so she would say something, I would feel a trigger, and I'm like, oh, that was a trigger for me. And this is what I heard. And this was the trigger that happened. And it changed everything.
Because we were then able to talk about it.
Right. And oftentimes she was having some emotional thing going on too, which caused her to say what she said.
Right.
So she could then own her trigger. And then we're both owning everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we do teach this because it became such a beautiful practice, very difficult at times. But the more we did it, and I could just identify it as a trigger and not I feel something,
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, trigger. That was a trigger. And it wasn't like inside of me. So then I could talk about it better because I had a little distance from it. And boy, did that make a difference. And then she wasn't to blame and I wasn't to blame. It was actually the past to
Right.
blame. And we could just look at that and it's like, oh, that's what that was. But what's real? What's happening now? And what's happening now is, oh, she's having a feeling, I'm having a feeling, and let's just move on. Let's both feel it, experience it, and okay, you good? I'm good. Fine. And off we would go.
Yeah. That's great advice. And that takes too a lot of time to really look at yourself, So you really have to look inward because you have to understand exactly what it is that's causing you to feel that way.
Right.
Well, yeah, because no matter what, you aren't responsible for someone else's actions.
Mm-hmm.
You're only responsible for how you respond to what they've done.
Exactly.
Have you ever had an experience where someone, like someone out in the world would say something and you don't even pay any attention to it, but somebody close to you says the same thing and now you're like spitting nails mad?
Yeah.
What's the difference? The same thing happened. So it's your reaction to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's the perfect example to say, oh, I need to look at what's happening inside of me.
Yeah.
Why am I reacting to you that way? But somebody else could say it to me and it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So you just see your own triggers and then you can talk about them and it's just so much less threatening.
Yes.
And that's the key to it all. So you have to get into your authentic self. You have to be willing to own your triggers and be kind and listen well.
Yes. And listening is huge.
You took
It
the
is.
words right out of my mouth. Yeah, because
Isn't that, I like to joke, that's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we can listen twice as much
Yes.
as we speak.
I tell our
You
oldest
have to
son that a
listen.
lot. I tell our oldest son that a lot.
I talk a lot, so I think he has to listen to about 4 times as much as he speaks.
Well, like they say, if I don't get it right the first time, I'm gonna hear it again. So I may as well listen.
Good answer.
We have this joke. We have a friend of ours who does parenting coaching, and our son has high functioning autism.
Mhm.
So there's been definitely some challenges in the way in which we communicate with him.
Mhm.
And she taught us an acronym, which absolutely totally changed everything in our house.
Complete game changer.
And the acronym is WAIT. WAIT. Why am I talking? Because he's not listening.
Yep.
How old are your children?
9, 3, and 2. And our oldest has ADHD. So I think we will have to use that acronym at home as well.
Right. I mean, you've got maybe 5 or 6 words before he's gone.
Yeah. And then it's every subject in the world in like 5 minutes.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I did not follow half of that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Our son has ADHD too. I can tell you, they do slow down. They
That's
do
good
slow down
news.
because now our son is very slow.
And he's not on any medications for ADHD at all.
Yeah, we had started him on medication when we first found out, but it just completely changed his mood and he was not himself. And it was just better without the medication. So
Yeah.
he's
We
not
did
been
the
on
same thing.
medication.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
And then come to find out, our son ended up with the diagnosis of high functioning autism.
Mhm.
And then we realized that some of the symptoms of the ADHD were probably the autism.
Right.
That's part of why the medicine didn't work for him at all.
Yeah.
But when she gave us this acronym last year, when we were because when we'd get annoyed at him, we just like, bep, 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 bep,
Trying to
bep.
like explain why you're
Explain.
wrong.
And she's like, he's not listening.
He can't, he literally can't
Mhm.
hear anymore. It's just he's overstimulated.
Yes.
And I think that's what happens with ADHD kids too, is that there's just they're catching everything.
Mhm.
It's not a deficit of attention, being able to pay attention. It's paying attention to too much.
Yes.
So he's hearing your words, he's watching your mouth, he's seeing your facial expressions, he's feeling your energy.
He's hearing his siblings in the background, the TV,
Yeah.
the lights,
Yes.
everything.
So,
That is totally him.
She really said, wait, think of that acronym and just hold space until whatever's happening is over and they settle. And then, are you ready for a hug? Are you ready for a conversation?
And then we can talk more and communicate.
That's
So we've
wonderful.
learned, and we use it with each other too. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, enough. Wait. And we just say, wait. And we're done.
Yep.
And we just get quiet.
That's awesome.
We'll definitely be using that one.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a game
Yay.
changer when she taught us that. I was like, oh, no one's ever told me that before.
Okay, now we've been in therapy with this kid since he was 6, and nobody ever said that, right?
That's crazy.
She's one of our colleagues, and we had her as one of our guests on one of our workshops to
Mhm.
talk about parenting, because she's also an adoptive parent. So we wanted her to talk about parenting beyond biology with our
Mhm.
folks, because a lot of our folks are step parents.
Yeah.
And she explained the acronym WAIT, and we just looked at each other like, oh my.
How did I
Mic
not
drop,
know
right?
this? Yeah. That's amazing. One of the best things that I think we learned when we went to couples therapy was when you're mad at each other, just hold their hand. Because and sometimes I just want to smack him, but I'm going to hold his hand because like it's crazy because I'll sit there and I'll be just fuming, right? And when we hold hands for about 5 minutes, it's like your energy just calms down.
Yes,
You
it
don't have to
does.
say anything. We generally don't sit close to each other, but we won't hold hands. And then, we start to get closer and then we can talk without just being absolutely upset and yelling and arguing. And we're able to just have a conversation then.
Yeah.
Well, it's that sense of touch, it's like, it's calming, it's relaxed, so it just takes it down a notch.
Mhm. And if you also think about the brain and the fight, flight, freeze reaction, it can't last very long.
Right.
You've got about 2 minutes of it. With all of the hormones and stuff, the physiological response to anger, it really physiologically only lasts a few minutes. If you can hold hands longer than that, you get past it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the biological piece as well. So there's the energetic, the biological, and just the fact that you just plain love each other. Let's get past all that and get back to the fact we like holding each other's hands.
Right.
Very
That's
cool.
the weird thing about that is because I can remember just the other night we were having a disagreement, and I remember when I started holding her hand, and then it was probably silence for maybe about 30 seconds, and then she started talking again. We started talking, and then I was sitting there thinking, is she still mad? I don't even think she's mad anymore. I think we've passed it. so
Nice.
Yeah.
so yeah,
And
it definitely works, and normally until you mentioned it, I don't even realize it anymore that the touch is having this effect on us. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Nicely done. Good work. You guys had a great therapist. That's
Oh
phenomenal.
yeah. Definitely
Yeah.
amazing. And it was life changing because honestly, if we had not done that, and this is where I think a lot of couples and a lot of people just in general are afraid to seek help because they're afraid it makes them look weak or whatever the case may be. And it does not. Like sometimes you just need someone to listen to you. And he was able to help us to understand because we just have different communication styles. And he was able to help us understand each other's communication style in a way that we couldn't explain to each other. And
Exactly.
you just need someone to be there in the middle, kind of listening and helping to guide you. And that's not weak, it's actually strength to seek help.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And you have to be super strong to be willing to walk in there and know that you might get your stuff taken apart a little bit and be thrown on, you're going to be put on the hot seat. And that's
Yeah.
really frightening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the
But
beginning,
it can
there's
be done
probably
gently.
Oh yeah, yeah, it can. And I guess too, depending on what all situations you've been through, there may be tears, there may be very difficult sessions, there will be difficult days, months. We had all of that,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of it, it makes you stronger.
Yep.
yeah, I think the biggest thing I took out of it is not just our relationship, but like y'all said at the beginning, is myself individually
Mm-hmm.
and working on myself, and pretty much I was able to learn who I am, why I tick a certain way, why I react a certain way, and things like that. And once I realized who I am as a person, then once I truly began to love me for who I am, until I loved myself, I wasn't capable of giving her the love that she needed. So definitely, you'll learn everything you may not even have expected to come just personally and in a relationship. So
Yeah. I'd love to circle that back to what you guys do, which is nutrition and fitness. And, if you walk into the process of changing your health without a little bit of self-love,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to fall off.
Yes.
And so that again, it has to be one of the things that's top of mind throughout. Because without that, the work that you're doing is not going to be sustainable.
Exactly.
So relationships aren't sustainable without it. Your fitness is not sustainable without it. Your career is not
Yeah.
sustainable. So we must begin to cultivate it on a deeper level.
Mhm.
Not just, oh, I like this jacket that I'm wearing. It's like, I like who's inside the jacket.
Right. Yes.
And whatever it is that maybe you don't like, what are you going to do to change that so you
Yes.
do? Because we are our own worst critics.
Mhm.
We beat ourselves up more than we let anyone else beat us up. So we have to learn how to fix that so we don't. My health got really, really bad physically. I almost ended up in a wheelchair. I let my health get so bad. And it took me the time to really take care of me, to then realize that, until I take care of me, I don't have anything to give anyone. I can't give from an empty cup. I
Right.
can't give from an empty cup. And I was doing that, and it wore me down to the point of my physical health getting really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And now my physical health is not really, really bad. Could it still improve? Of course, we always have
Oh, yeah.
the next level. But compared to where I was to where I am today. In fact, Stephanie was teasing me this afternoon saying, do you remember how you used to spend as much time in bed as you now spend sitting at the computer doing work?
Wow.
I spent that much time in bed.
Wow.
And now I put that into my business
Mm-hmm.
and into who I am and what I want to give and do in this world. I spent all that time in bed.
That's crazy. Wow. This has been absolutely an amazing conversation with you ladies. I have most definitely enjoyed it. And I know that this is going to be incredible for our listeners because I tell you, whether it's COVID or not, these are things that we just have to learn and be able to push through to better ourselves and our relationships with ourselves and with others. And so this has been amazing.
Yeah. And, we can look at COVID as a curse or a gift.
Right.
And it's showing us these things that must be healed.
Yes.
It truly is. It's taken off all of our blinders. And it's time. It's time for us to up level as a species, as individuals. And this is why we're all here. I mean, we started our business during COVID. How long you guys been going?
Yeah, we started during COVID.
Right. Because it's time for us to take the bushel basket off and let our light shine.
Exactly.
So everybody listening, it's time to take the bushel basket off and start to shine in every part of your life, whether it's your health and nutrition, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your career, whatever it is, start today.
Yes.
Or continue if you've been doing it.
Exactly. Yes.
Never too late.
No.
Exactly.
Nope.
So where can our listeners find you and how can they work with you?
Well, our website is www.enchantedAwakenings.love. And you can find us there. You can sign up for our newsletter and you can sign up for our free Facebook group. And you can read all about all the different things that we do. And most of the magic is happening right in that Facebook group. We do trainings every other week. And we really nurture everybody in that free Facebook group. But we also have an amazing signature program called Love Gets Better Together, where we teach our 6 pillars. It's a 6-month program where we work with you in small groups and individually and take you through the 6 pillars that we sort of alluded to during this. And each month we focus on a different pillar so that by the end, you and your relationships are stronger and more blissful than they've ever been.
Ah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so our free Facebook group is just Enchanted Awakenings. And again, you can, either find it on our webpage or if you're just on Facebook, just
Drop it in the
search for
search.
Enchanted Awakenings and you'll find us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. Before you go, we have some rapid fire questions that we love to do to relate back to our fitness and nutrition here. So if we can ask you separately, Jennifer, these are your preferences, weights or cardio?
I would have to say weights because physically, I don't think I could do cardio.
And favorite fruit?
Oh my goodness. I'm vegetarian. They're all my favorite.
Fruit is her
Makes me
favorite.
So happy.
Is my favorite. And I'm almost vegan, not quite, but
That makes
been
us
vegetarian for 7 years. So
Wow.
fruit is my
Awesome.
favorite.
That's wonderful. What's your favorite vegetable?
Oh goodness. Asparagus.
Love asparagus. Favorite comfort food?
Favorite comfort food. What's my favorite comfort food?
Probably fruit.
Try fruit. We had some blood oranges before we got on with you. So
It's fruit.
Awesome. And this is I'm gonna be really excited to hear your answer for this one. So first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word vegan?
exciting.
Yes. And most importantly, where do you get your strength from?
Spirit.
Wonderful. All right, Stephanie, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, weights or cardio?
Cardio.
And favorite fruit?
Grapefruit.
Oh, I love grapefruit. He hates it. Favorite vegetable?
Brussels sprouts.
Yes. Can you believe our kids actually asked for Brussels sprouts?
Yes.
Our son eats Brussels sprouts and asparagus. Both
That's
our favorites.
amazing. Favorite comfort food?
Oatmeal.
Yes.
That's what we eat every morning for breakfast.
Love it.
First thing that comes to your mind when you hear vegan?
Yummy.
And most importantly, where do you get your strength from?
Connecting with other people.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies, again for coming on. We have had an amazing time.
Great conversation.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
It's been great from our end too.